Good evening. Great to have you with us. I'm Paul Graney. In a bid to lower the price you're paying at the pump, the Biden administration is ordering the release of oil from the nation's strategic reserves. 50 million barrels will soon hit the market. It's about 3 days of U.S. domestic oil consumption. Here's the president today.
Today, I'm announcing that the largest ever release from the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve to help provide the supply we need as we recover from this pandemic. In addition, I brought together other nations to contribute to the solution.
It seems to be a joint effort. The White House says China, India, Japan, South Korea, and the United Kingdom will do the same. Recently, crude oil prices have surged to 7-year highs. Global demand seeing a sharp rebound post-lockdowns. Biden is also pushing the international oil cartel OPEC Plus to produce more and alleviate rising prices. But Republicans say it's Biden's policies that are keeping prices high, like nixing the Keystone Pipeline and freezing new oil and gas drilling leases. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy saying the real solution is to ramp up domestic oil production. So joining us is Tom McNulty, energy expert and the managing director of the Houston office of ValueScope. Tom, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, it's great to see you.
Tom, this new move from the Biden administration to start releasing some of the strategic reserves, I believe the idea was to help ease oil and gas prices, but today on the announcement we see Brent crude up considerably. What do you think is happening in the markets?
WTI is up as well. I think it's, you first understand what the SPR is for. It's really for emergencies, and that means war, conflicts, blocked canals, and also massive storms like Hurricane Katrina. It's not really designed to move gasoline prices. WTI traded up and Brent. A couple of reasons, I think. I mean, it's not a lot in the scheme of things. It might be less than the market was expecting, but really above all, the market is not going to reprice based on this amount of crude. I mean, there's a lot of detail in this. I mean, I think it's a lot of heavier sour crude. I don't know that our refinery complex is set up at this time of year to crack that crude. I think a lot of it will wind up in China and India. I mean, energy is complicated. It's a global market. It's also very physical and very technical. And I think this is perhaps more of a political move than a physical, technical move.
You think it's a shot across the bow at OPEC, or you feel they genuinely want to try and bring the prices down? But as you said, with the volume of release, it's almost insignificant from what I can see.
Yeah, that's correct. If you look at a market that pre-pandemic is globally 100 million barrels a day. I mean, it's a shot across the bow of OPEC plus, or OPEC plus the additional non-OPEC countries, perhaps, but I don't see how that will work. I mean, OPEC has been increasing its production. They've been basically at a 400,000 barrel a day kind of level monthly, gradually bringing more production online post-pandemic. I mean, I think depends if we're ending the pandemic or coming out of it now. I just don't see that as working. Perhaps that was the intent geopolitically, but I don't think OPEC Plus will be intimidated by this. Maybe they will slow their barrel increases onto the market to fire a shot across the other bow. I mean, I just think that they're in a strong position, and I don't think this move will have much of an impact on them.
Interesting. Finally, this morning on a background call on this new decision to release the strategic reserves, a senior admin official, they said, and I quote, "The president is focused on how consolidation in the oil and gas sector may be resulting in anti-competitive practices." You think there's anything to watch here?
Yeah, I saw, it was about a week ago, an announcement maybe 2 weeks ago of the use of the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, which has an executive branch mandate. And as you know from my background, I have an executive branch background earlier in my career, to look for monopolistic behavior, anti-competitive price gouging type behaviors. I understand that. I understand it's the mandate, and if they find it, they should pursue it. I just being in Houston, it's not something that's talked about here. There's not a lot of chatter around that. It's a very competitive business. Lots of companies operate in the space. The consolidation that the individual you're citing is talking about has happened slightly, but we haven't had a massive wave of M&A over the past couple of years, reducing the number of oilfield services companies, upstream companies, midstream companies. So I personally I personally don't see that or any evidence of that. So we'll have to see how that plays out. There's still a lot of companies in the space competing every day, which I think makes it hard for anti-competitive behavior. Maybe not impossible, but I think it'd be difficult to do.
Interesting. Tom McNulty, Value Scope, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And as we approach Thanksgiving, Americans are stocking up on food and supplies for the big day. But have you been able to find your favorite wine or spirit? Glass bottles are in short supply, and that's putting pressure on wine and spirits companies ahead of the holidays. NTD's Fake Quarter has the details.
The supply chain crisis has spread to the U.S. wine industry. International freight delays, labor shortages, and higher costs are making it harder for glass suppliers to meet demand for bottles.
What a lot of the companies in the spirits industry are experiencing is definitely a shortage of bottles.
We're kind of stuck, and it's impacted us not tremendously, but it has been significant.
California-based Water's Edge Wineries is experiencing the glass supply bottleneck right now. Around 2010, the company started getting most of its bottles from China.
That was all well and good until we hit the pandemic and now the shipping and logistical issues. We found that our suppliers have just had a terrible time not only getting their containers over the ocean, but then, of course, getting them offloaded at the ports.
The CEO of Water's Edge Wineries, Ken Lineberger, says the bottle shortage has hit the sparkling wine sector especially hard.
And they couldn't produce any sparkling for about a period of, I would guess, around 90 days. And that really put a crimp in because that's a significant portion of our supply.
The chief economist for the Distilled Spirits Council, David Osgo, says in the short term, you may need to spend more time and effort to find what you're looking for.
You might have to go to the package store more than once just to see when it's coming in.
Osgo says we're in a golden age with over 16,000 different spirits products being marketed in the United States right now. He says seize the opportunity to try something new and different. Fake Quarter, NTD News.
And the U.S. Navy is helping with the port bottlenecks in California. It's allowing ships to offload cargo onto its naval base at Port Hueneme, providing space for extra holiday shipments. A long-standing agreement allows the Navy to support commercial supply chain logistics when activated, and that agreement took effect in November. The White House is reportedly working to relax trucking regulations and persuade ports and railroads to operate around the clock. Some experts, though, say there's no quick fix for the problem. A big worry for trucking company CEOs we've spoken with is the impact of vaccine mandates on driver retention. A recent survey found a large number of truckers would quit if forced to get a vaccine. But the Biden administration insists that getting more people vaccinated will help the economy recover faster. So it's asking a federal appeals court to reinstate its federal mandate after it was blocked by another federal court. Under the mandate, all employees working for businesses with 100 or more workers need to get the vaccine. OSHA published the rule earlier this month, but an appeals court blocked it. It said it was flawed and likely unconstitutional. The president argues that the court falsely interpreted the mandate and delaying it would cost lives. And after laying off significant numbers of workers last year, airlines are now raising pay to lure new recruits. NTD's Fake Quarter reports.
Travel demand is rebounding, and carriers are suddenly facing a shortage of all kinds of staff, not just pilots. That sparked a pay battle for workers. American Airlines subsidiary Piedmont is trying to lure pilots in with an $180,000 bonus offer. United is offering a $5,000 signing bonus for some ground staff. Spirit, the low-cost carrier, has raised some wages by 30% and is helping flight attendants pay back tuition fees. Big names like United and Delta are also poaching workers from smaller operators where wages are lower. But the soaring wage costs are coming just as fuel prices are jumping as well, and with airport charges on the rise too. That has left airline profits feeling the squeeze. Critics say the firms only have themselves to blame. U.S. Airlines made savage job cuts last year, despite getting $54 billion in federal aid to help cover payroll costs. The cuts have left them short of workers as demand snaps back. Faye Corder, NTD News.
And theft by large groups of organized criminals is taking place across the United States in pharmacies and retail stores. And just today, electronics giant Best Buy warning its workers might quit because of safety concerns. NTD's Phil Zoe has the story.
Best Buy is the latest victim of flash mob robberies across the U.S.
We are seeing more loosely organized groups come together and target our stores.
Barry says they go in and grab large amounts of merchandise, then run out.
For our employees, these are traumatic experiences, and they are happening more and more across the country. Obviously, their safety is our first priority.
She said workers may start quitting for their safety.
We have to go back to allowing police officers to do their job. And letting the criminals know, you do not run the asylum. You do not run society.
Officer and founder of Blue Lives Matter New York City says the government has to lock up the bad guys and not let them out.
When you steal from these department stores 50, 60 times, there's no business with you being on the street. So you got to set an example, put the bad guys behind bars, and we'll see the crime start to go down.
Psychologist Dr. Barbara Becker-Holstein says it's important for workers to feel safe at work, especially after the pandemic, when people are fragile.
To go to work and then be frightened is more than they can handle, and they look for a way out. Sometimes it's quitting. Sometimes it's calling in sick.
Dr. Holstein says management can help by showing that they genuinely care for their workers.
What we want to do is sort of like animalistic. We want to just give up. It's time, it's over. But the human part of us needs to come through with caring and kindness. Even a note to an employee at the end of the day. I see you did a good job. Great. People need to not give up.
Stocks of Best Buy went down as much as 17% on the news before rebounding slightly to around $120. Phil Zoe, NTD News.
And another thing for businesses to worry about this holiday season are cyber attacks. The FBI and Cybersecurity Agency releasing a holiday warning today. They didn't highlight any specific threat, but hackers have struck on holidays and weekends in the past. It's because IT staffing is generally light during these times, making response times slower. Authorities advise businesses to make sure they have workers on call who can address attacks quickly if they do happen. According to one cybersecurity firm, nearly a quarter of organizations don't have contingency plans for dealing with ransomware attacks over the holidays. And stocks closed pretty mixed on Wall Street today. The Dow rose 195 points, about 0.6%. S&P 500 gained 8 points, about 0.2%. The Nasdaq, though, dropped 80 points, about 0.5% today. Do you think that $300 for Beats headphones is too much? Well, apparently Italy thinks so. It says Amazon and Apple working together might be one reason for the high prices, so it's fined the two tech firms for it. Italian authorities say by only allowing certain resellers to sell Beats products, competition is limited and consumers end up paying more. Italy fined both Amazon and Apple together $225 million. Apple bought Beats in 2014. And according to the agreement between the tech giants, only select retailers are allowed to sell Apple and Beats products on Amazon. And the Italian watchdog says their actions violated EU rules, affected competition on pricing too. Both Apple and Amazon, though, say they plan to appeal the fines. And apparently California isn't telling the public what their tax dollars are being spent on. Controller Betty Yee says it's because the data would take too long to gather. The CEO of OpenTheBooks.com isn't convinced. NTD's Don Ma has more.
California refuses to tell the public what it's spending their tax dollars on. OpenTheBooks.com is suing to get access to the state's records.
A very basic copy of state spending. We call it the California checkbook. And what it entails is the line-by-line transactions, how the state spent taxpayer money in the previous year.
Adam Andrzejewski is the CEO and founder of OpenTheBooks.com. Andrzejewski says California Controller Betty Yee rejected his requests back in 2019, prompting the lawsuit.
California Controller Betty Yee is acting like she has a lot to hide. Their arguments in the California Superior Court have been mystifying. For example, one of their primary arguments is they can't locate any of the 50 million bills that they paid last year. They also argue in front of the judge that they, quote unquote, don't have a checkbook.
In a letter, Yee says that the state controller's office does not maintain a centralized vendor contract database, and that contracts are paid for directly by the contracting agency, of which there are approximately 500. Andrzejewski isn't convinced, as he's already received records from all other 49 states.
Our lawsuit is historic. California has always been a black box. That's not right, and this suit would force open the line-by-line spending in the Golden State.
Andrzejewski says the case is now in the judge's hands. Don Ma, NTD News.
And still to come this evening. Get ready for price increases at the grocery store. General Mills reportedly warning of price hikes coming next year. And Tiffany is selling its most expensive piece of jewelry ever. Find out how much it's expected to fetch and more coming up on NTD Business.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but millions of you out there. Before all this started, I had already written in my memoir, I dedicate this book to anyone that's looking for hope. Well, right now, we're all looking for hope. I believe that my story is going to bring inspiration and hope to everyone. By the time you're done reading my book, you will believe that with God, all things are possible. To thank you all for your support, I'm offering some of my best prices ever on MyPillow products, including this exclusive bundle. You get my book and these 5 MyPillows. They all have beautiful scenes and verses from the Bible, such as Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. This 6-pack bundle is regularly $219. Now it's just $99.98 and free shipping with your promo code. Go to mypillow.com and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below. Thank you and God bless.
The performance was enchanting.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted. It touches you. It really does.
The expertise of the dancers was really, really strong.
To know that it was live music was really fantastic.
We didn't want to miss this.
Make sure you see it.
Have to come. Life-changing.
Coming to West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami, November 8th through January 9th.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back. Many U.S. shoppers are gearing up for a busy holiday season, but supply chain disruptions and inflation will influence how people spend this year. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
American consumers are gearing up for Black Friday, kicking off one of the most intense periods of holiday shopping.
Yeah, so in the US, Black Friday is getting bigger and bigger every year. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Black Friday lasting an entire month. 58% of Americans in our test survey show that they believe that Black Friday is still the best #1 day to land the best possible deals on the product they want. So Black Friday and every version of it is going to continue to be big for consumers and therefore great news for retailers.
News has been mostly good for retailers in recent months, as reopenings sent shoppers back into stores.
The big month-long Black November or Black Week just isn't landing. Consumers are getting tired of Black Fridays that last more than a day. They last a week, they last a month. We've had the same thing in the UK where Boxing Day sales have turned into January sales. That used to be just December the 26th. Now it's an entire month of January.
But global supply chain issues are leaving inventories low. Rising prices also remain a worry. Soaring inflation also has markets worried about consumer spending.
Supply chain disruptions are a big problem. So consumers are worried that the items that they want to get won't be available at Christmas time in the holidays in December, either because of stockouts driven by supply chains in Europe and North America, or simply because everything's going to get sold out in Black Friday because it lasts so long now. But 42% of consumers say that they've begun their Christmas shopping early.
But recent retail sales numbers made for happier reading, showing October sales surging, as Americans started shopping early to beat supply shortages. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Unlike just about everything on store shelves, your favorite bowl of cereal could cost you more next year. According to one regional wholesale supplier, General Mills is raising prices on hundreds of its products in 2022. The supplier said it received letters about the price hike from the company last week. That means popular cereals like Cheerios, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and Lucky Charms are included in the increase, along with items from well-known brands like Progresso, Betty Crocker, and Pillsbury. General Mills has not commented on the supposed price hike, but the supplier says prices are expected to go up around 20% starting in mid-January. But despite rising prices at London's Spirit of the Christmas Fair, retailers predict people will want to make their homes especially festive this Christmas. It's after many families were kept apart in 2020. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
The Christmas sparkle is back in London. The Spirit of Christmas Fair recently showcasing this year's top decoration trends. At the Jan Constantine stand, visitors can find hand-embroidered items made of wool or velvet.
People want to make this year really special, have after last year, where maybe they weren't able to meet, and now everybody can gather this year and have a lovely time together. So they want their homes nice, they want them welcoming, they want them Christmassy, and we have the sparkles.
Many families are looking forward to Christmas meals together. Jane Abbott has come up with festive designs for her fine bone china to make this year's table extra special.
This year in particular, I think it's going to be a very special year because last year we didn't meet, and I think we're going to be meeting friends and gathering family around together around the table, and hopefully, this new coming a lovely Christmas festive table is a really nice thing to have.
Also on display are flowers, wreaths, candles, and Scandinavian decorations made of wood and natural materials. The minimalist Christmas look has become increasingly popular. The founder of Urban Outline explains the mythical characters with tall hats and long beards, called Nisa and Tomte.
Traditionally, we believe that if you have to look after them, you have to believe in Christmas, because otherwise they get very naughty. You really have to make an effort, get the family together. It's about coming together, and then that's why they become part of the family, I think.
A study by American Express found that Brits spent an average of $109 on Christmas decorations last year. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And Tiffany & Co. just unveiled what it's calling its most expensive piece of jewelry ever. A necklace experts say is worth over $20 million. The World's Fair necklace was unveiled in Dubai on Sunday. It features 180 carats of diamond set in platinum, while the centerpiece is an 80-carat oval, flawless, D-color Empire diamond. The Empire diamond was ethically sourced in Botswana, cut and polished in Israel, and set in Tiffany's workshop in New York City. The luxury retailer has not yet put a price on the necklace, but industry experts estimate the value to be between $20 and $30 million. Be a nice Christmas present. That's the latest business updates for today, but you can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie at Cox. That's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, it's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.